It was my first year teaching kindergarten. I was not a special needs teacher. The school year started with 16 children on my class roll. I had a student that had autism who refused to be called by her name. She preferred to be called Millie from Team Umizoomi. If you called her by her name, it would send her into a rage or a huge tantrum. I had another student who was also on the autism spectrum. He had hypersensitivity to touch. For example, he loved to walk through the cubby area and feel the curtains and go back and forth, back and forth. If you tried to stop him so that he could sit and learn or so that he wasn't being a distraction, he would get very upset. He was also about the size of a second grader while in kindergarten. I had a third student who was also on the spectrum. He was tiny and heavily medicated. I mentioned his medication because sometimes as soon as he walked through the classroom door, he would vomit. And this was usually because he didn't have enough food on his stomach before he got to school. So when the school year started, all three had not been diagnosed with autism. Finally, in the same group, I had a gifted student with oppositional defiant disorder, ODD, and conduct disorder, CD. I started the year with 16 students and ended up with 20. Just as I began to feel like I had things under control, I'd get a new student. I did not have a teacher's aide. A behavior specialist came to observe and help me brainstorm things like what triggered the students, and she and I would brainstorm solutions or responses to those triggers in order to minimize loss of instructional time. So, it was my first year in the grade level, and I had to get accustomed to typical kindergarten behavior while also learning how to manage 3 students with autism and their parents who were also learning and coping. I had the academically gifted student that had ODD and CD. I had to do tons of documenting for each of the 4 students while also teaching subjects to the entire class. But I didn't give up. Thanks to the behavior specialist, I continuously revised my strategies. In this situation, my high level of performance required meticulous planning down to the minute, 5 days a week, 20 days a month, 180 school days a year. When I planned, it was not just academic. I had to plan behavior down to the minute. After a talk with my class and approval from her parents, we called Millie. I removed the curtains and used baskets and labels to make my cubby storage area look more organized. I put a trash can near the front door. My gifted student with ODD made some small improvements, but unfortunately, she was sent to an alternative school in first grade. By the end of the year, 100% of my students were proficient and 85% had a full year's growth on the standardized test. That was a huge accomplishment because the odds were stacked against me. The end result was worth it. As I stuck to the routines and set expectations, I had small successes with each of my students. So whether it was a day without a meltdown or a week without a potty accident, I counted it all joy. Success was my former principal's mantra, "It's all about the kids." This simple phrase encapsulated a powerful perspective. By prioritizing the children's needs, everything else would line up. This principle not only guided my decision making, but also fueled my motivation to provide what was best for the students. While it often meant extra hours after school and on weekends, this satisfaction of knowing I was genuinely making a difference for the kids made it all worthwhile. Hard work means putting in a lot of effort and not giving up, especially when things get tough. I had a goal of following my lesson plans even though there were unexpected events. Hard work isn't always about numbers or measurements, but about how I feel inside. It's knowing that I did my best and improved. Whether it's effective instruction, finishing a project, or losing weight, the results might not always be immediate, but the satisfaction of knowing I've exerted myself fully is a rewarding measure of hard work's value.